What if the thing you love most is the very thing that's weakening you? Think about it. The relationship you fight to keep, the job title you're afraid to lose, the reputation you cling to like armor. If the thought of walking away shakes your core, then you're not holding it. It's holding you. Most men live in quiet captivity, not because they're weak, but because they've been conditioned to believe that letting go is failure. That calm detachment means you don't care. That walking away is giving up. The Stoics knew better. They taught that real power isn't in what you control, it's in what doesn't control you. Emotional detachment isn't coldness. It's clarity. It's a strength. It's the ability to protect your peace and reclaim your inner command. In this video, we'll expose the hidden chains, the emotional attachments, silent fears, and toxic expectations, and show you how to walk away calmly, with dignity, with discipline, with power. You're not alone in this. Every strong man has faced this test. Can you leave without breaking? Stick around. What comes next might just free you from what's been silently draining your energy for years. If this hits home, like the video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who's ready to reclaim their power, silently, stoically, completely. Because freedom doesn't come from fighting harder. It comes from walking away without trembling. 1. Every attachment is a mental shackle. You think you're strong because you fight for what you love. You think loyalty, ambition, and devotion make you powerful. But let me ask you this. What happens if it's taken from you? If just the thought of losing it makes your chest tighten, your hands clench, your mind spiral? Then it's not love, it's bondage. It owns you. That's not power. That's dependence dressed as dedication. Stoicism doesn't ask you to stop loving. It asks you to stop needing. There's a difference. To love someone or something freely is to be able to let go of it calmly when the time comes. But most men cling, not out of strength, but out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being nobody, fear of silence. And so they build their identity around roles, possessions, people, and titles. Like a man chaining himself to a throne made of sand. Epictetus said, "We suffer not from events, but from our attachments to them." What breaks us isn't the loss, it's our refusal to release. The expectation that something outside us should last forever. That a person or job or position should remain unchanged just because we gave it everything. But the world doesn't work on emotional contracts. It flows, it shifts, it ends. And if you tie your worth to the things that move, you'll sink with them. Attachment whispers, "You need this to be okay." Detachment answers, "I choose peace over possession." The man who can stand alone, not bitter, not broken, but grounded, is a man no one can control. He's dangerous in the best way. Not because he's violent, but because he's untouchable. His mind is his own. His calm cannot be purchased, provoked, or stolen. Now, look around. What are you holding on to so tightly that your identity would crack if it slipped away? Maybe it's a job title you haven't outgrown but can't leave because it defines you. Maybe it's a woman who no longer respects you, but you cling to her because silence terrifies you more than disrespect. Maybe it's a reputation, a version of yourself others admire, but that version is dead, and you're too afraid to bury it. This is the trap. Not the thing itself, but the emotional grip it has on you. Stoicism trains you to spot that grip early, to ask, if I lost this today, would I lose myself with it? If the answer is yes, you've got work to do. Not outside, inside. Because real freedom doesn't come from acquiring more, it comes from needing less. The next time you feel anxious about losing something, stop. Don't react. Breathe. And then whisper the truth to yourself. If it can be taken from me, it was never mine. And if I can't walk away from it calmly, it was already taking something from me long before it left. Start small. Choose one thing this week to loosen your grip on. It could be an opinion you've been defending, a conversation you're forcing, a title you've outgrown. Practice letting go. Not with anger, not with noise, but with quiet, deliberate calm. Because the more calmly you can walk away, the less anything can own you. That's Stoic strength. That's inner freedom. And no one can take that from you. 2. If you can't leave in silence, you've lost your power. A man who must announce his exit has already surrendered. Loud exits, emotional explosions, dramatic retreats, they don't signal strength. They reveal entanglement. When walking away becomes a performance, the performance becomes a cry for control. Not over the situation, but over the fear of being insignificant, unheard, or forgotten. That fear exposes dependency, and dependency is weakness cloaked in noise. True Stoic detachment is not silent because it's passive. It's silent because it's sovereign. It doesn't beg, it doesn't explain, it doesn't seek validation. It decides. The man who leaves calmly leaves because he owns his decision. He's not reacting, he's commanding. That stillness you see, it's not emptiness, it's discipline. A fire that doesn't flare up because it's been mastered. In modern life, men are taught to defend every move. Say something, explain yourself, fight for closure. But Stoicism says otherwise. You don't need to justify departure when departure is rooted in clarity. You don't need noise to prove you're right when silence is evidence you're free. Most men scream as they leave because they want to hurt back, they want to be remembered. They want the last word. But the last word is worthless if your energy is still trapped in the room you walked out of. Imagine a warrior leaving a battlefield, not limping, not shouting, but walking straight, bloodied but unbroken. He doesn't need to scream to prove he's undefeated. His calm stride says everything. That's the walk of a Stoic. A man who's done defending what no longer aligns with him. A man who knows that calm exit is not weakness, it's command. You can feel this difference in everyday life. A heated argument with someone you love, the urge to throw final words like weapons. A toxic workplace, you want to slam the door so they remember your name. But what if you didn't? What if your last act wasn't loud, but level? What if you simply turned and walked and let the silence do the talking? Walking away in silence isn't indifference. It's a message. I don't need to be loud because I'm no longer attached. I don't need your apology. I don't need to convince you I'm right. My calm is enough. My absence is a sentence you'll hear longer than anything I could have said. So the next time you feel the urge to react, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, am I responding from clarity or from the need to prove something? If it's the latter, say nothing. Withdraw. Not to escape, but to rise. Because a man who exits without collapse is already winning. He is not at war, he's beyond it. Practice this in moments that don't seem grand. When a stranger cuts you off, when someone misjudges you, when a conversation turns toxic. Instead of defending, disappear inward. Reclaim your stillness. Remind yourself, power does not beg to be seen. It moves in silence. It acts with finality. And once you've learned to leave without noise, nothing outside you can trigger what's been mastered within. That is how you earn an unshakable presence. That is how you become untouchable. 3. Audit yourself. What can you not imagine losing? Strength isn't built by holding tighter. It's built by knowing what you can walk away from and still remain whole. But most men never test that. They spend decades constructing a life that looks strong on the outside, yet rests on invisible dependencies. Their confidence comes from titles. Their peace depends on routine. Their worth is tied to people's opinions. And they never ask the most dangerous question. If I lost this, would I still be myself? Stoicism doesn't wait for disaster to force clarity. It demands that you audit yourself while everything seems intact. That's what separates the reactive from the prepared. A Stoic man doesn't measure strength by what he gains, but by what he can lose without collapse. He strips illusion before life does it for him. So you sit down, you write it out. 5 things you believe you couldn't live without. 5 attachments that would shake you if they vanished. Then you face them, not to destroy them, but to observe their grip on your identity. And if any of them make you feel small, desperate, or unsafe without them, you've already given away your freedom. Men often confuse consistency with strength, but dependency hides inside routine. The man who says, I need this job or I'm nothing, isn't loyal, he's trapped. The man who can't imagine life without her isn't in love. He's owned. The man who thinks his title makes the man has never met himself without it. These aren't signs of commitment, they're warning signs of internal erosion. The Stoic way flips the question. Instead of asking, how can I hold on to this forever? It asks, can I be free from it if needed? That shift reclaims your center. Because what you can't leave calmly is already stealing your calm. And what you refuse to face will one day face you without mercy. Imagine standing on a dock. One by one, people, objects, and roles pass by in boats. Some bring joy, some bring meaning, but none are meant to anchor you. You're meant to wave, appreciate, even ride along for a while. But when the time comes, you must step off without flinching. If you jump into the water every time a boat leaves, you drown. That's how most people live, drowning in the departure of things they thought defined them. Real identity begins when you subtract everything temporary and still recognize the man standing there. Not the CEO, not the husband, not the provider, just the man. Reason, virtue, clarity. That's the core the Stoics build from. Everything else is extra, useful, but not essential. So this week, do what most won't. Audit your mind. Write down what you're afraid to lose. Read it aloud. Then whisper the truth to yourself. If this left, I would hurt, but I would not break. Because nothing that's truly mine can be taken. And if it can, then it was never who I am. Practice detaching in micro moments. Delay a comfort. Question a habit. Walk away from a small dependency and feel your strength return. Not loud, not urgent, just steady. And with each layer you release, what remains is you. Stronger, calmer, untouchable. That's not a loss, that's liberation, and only the disciplined ever find it. 4. Letting go isn't weakness, it's tactical disengagement. People praise those who fight for what they want. Rarely do they admire those who walk away. But in the world of Stoicism, letting go isn't a sign of defeat, it's a signature of mastery. Letting go, when done consciously and calmly, doesn't collapse. It's control. Weakness clings. Strength releases, without a sound, without a scene. Most men confuse effort with effectiveness. They burn energy, defending what's already draining them. They think staying longer proves loyalty. They think struggling harder means they still care. But Stoicism cuts through this emotional noise. It doesn't ask, how hard are you trying? It asks, is this still worth your energy? When the answer is no, the Stoic man doesn't plead. He disengages. He steps back with purpose, not with bitterness. Letting go is not apathy. It's precision. It's refusing to let your energy be held hostage by something that no longer aligns with your values or identity. And this doesn't just apply to people. It applies to habits, environments, goals, and even parts of yourself that you've outgrown. You don't need to declare war on what no longer serves you. You just need to stop feeding it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Remove the value and the thing loses its grip." That's the essence. The object doesn't own you. Your valuation of it does. As soon as you stop assigning it power, it shrinks. The weight wasn't in the object. It was in your hands, gripping too tightly. Most emotional exhaustion doesn't come from what we carry, but from refusing to put it down. Picture this: a man holding a burning rope. He screams in pain but won't let go. Why? Because the rope was once a lifeline. But now it's fire, and he'd rather burn than release. That's how many live. Holding on to something that once saved them, now slowly destroying them. Letting go isn't weakness. Holding on blindly is. This kind of tactical disengagement requires awareness and discipline. You must see clearly where your energy is leaking. Is it the job that once excited you but now drowns you in resentment? Is it the relationship that once nourished you but now silences your peace? Is it the belief about yourself you've carried for decades? The one that says, if I stop fighting, I become irrelevant. To walk away with composure is to admit, this no longer feeds who I'm becoming. It's not emotional collapse, it's strategic conservation. It's choosing peace over pride, clarity over conflict, and presence over performance. And it's done quietly. No need for a speech, no need for permission. You simply disengage, mentally first, then physically if needed. You redirect your limited energy toward what actually builds you. Try this today. Choose one thing, a toxic conversation, a thought loop, a need to explain, and let it go without resistance. Watch what happens when you stop fueling what frustrates you. The silence you create becomes a fortress. The energy you reclaim becomes your weapon. You'll begin to feel stronger, not because you fought harder, but because you stopped bleeding power where it no longer belonged. Letting go isn't surrender. It's subtraction, to get back to clarity. It's not giving up. It's choosing what's worth keeping. And that choice, when made with calm resolve, isn't just strength, it's freedom. Permanent, quiet, and untouchable. 5. Calm is the weapon of the truly powerful. No one expects silence to strike harder than noise. Yet it does. The world glorifies reaction. The loud retort, the raised voice, the instant clapback. It tells you to speak your truth, stand your ground, and show your strength. But when strength becomes a performance, it weakens. The The calm man, on the other hand, doesn't perform. He doesn't need to. His silence isn't absence, it's proof of mastery. In a room full of tension, the calm one leads. Not because he speaks more clearly, but because he speaks less. People sense when someone isn't rattled. It unsettles them. Not in fear, but in recognition. This one is different. He's not resisting, not competing, not provoking. He's anchored. His energy isn't scattered across arguments or insults. It's sealed inside, and that sealed energy becomes power. Stoicism trains that inner stillness, not for image, but for survival. Because in life's most volatile moments, your reaction reveals your discipline. A man who explodes under pressure is still ruled by impulse. A man who stays grounded while others shake is free. He has emotional control. He knows how to protect his energy and therefore his judgment. Imagine a storm slamming against two homes. One is all glass, polished, loud, and exposed. The other is stone, plain, quiet, unmoved. When the wind hits, only one remains. Calmness is that stone. It isn't exciting, but it endures. And in a world designed to provoke, endurance is the ultimate defiance. So ask yourself, what rattles you? What words can still pull you out of peace? What faces still trigger the urge to react, to defend, to prove? Those are the weak spots. Not because they hurt, but because they still control you. You're not truly calm if you're only calm when unchallenged. Real composure is tested, built in chaos, proven in conflict. You don't become calm by suppressing emotion. You become calm by training your perception, by questioning every impulse. Is this worth my energy? Is this a threat to my values, or just to my pride? You breathe. You choose stillness. You let the other person exhaust themselves. You let silence make them uncomfortable. And when you finally speak, every word is a blade. Not because it cuts, but because it's sharp and deliberate. Calm is not being unaffected. It's being unaffected outwardly while being disciplined inwardly. You feel everything, but you don't leak it. That's power. Not the power to dominate others, but the power to refuse being dominated by emotion. It's strategic, it's sustainable, it's stoic. In daily life, practice this when triggered. When someone cuts you off in traffic, don't react. When your name is misused, stay still. When someone disrespects you, don't collapse into proving your worth. That moment of pause is your training ground. That breath between impulse and response is your freedom. Over time, the world will learn something dangerous about you. You cannot be rattled. And once that becomes true, you won't need to shout it. They'll feel it. You'll carry your power like a sealed container, quiet but full. Calm isn't just a state. It's a message. Nothing owns me, nothing provokes me. I choose when and how I respond. That's not passive, that's dominance. The silent kind, the kind no one can shake. 6. You are not your roles, possessions, or reflections. Strip away the job title. Take off the suit. Erase the praise, the compliments, the applause. Then ask yourself, what's left? If your identity evaporates with your roles, you never had one. You only had masks. And most men wear them for so long they forget they're wearing anything at all. The world tells you to build a name, a brand, a reputation. It rewards the image, not the substance. So you play along. You become the provider, the CEO, the husband, the successful one. And over time, these outer labels become inner limits. You no longer ask who you are, you ask what people see. That's not identity, that's dependency dressed in status. The Stoics saw this trap centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you are reason and virtue, nothing else defines you. Not your income, not your family role, not your reflection in someone else's eyes. Just your choices, your discipline, your clarity. That's all. Everything else can be taken. Everything else is a moving target. But your mind, your integrity, is yours to keep or to lose. You see it everywhere. A man retires and collapses emotionally. Why? Because he confused his role with his worth. Another man goes through divorce and becomes a ghost. Not because he lost love, but because he lost a title he built his identity around. These men weren't broken by life. They were broken by false definitions of self. Their center was built on sand. You are not your roles. You fulfill them, but you don't become them. A man who makes his title his identity lives in quiet fear. Fear of losing it. Fear of being exposed. Fear of becoming invisible once it's gone. And fear, as always, breeds manipulation. He starts living for the image, not for the truth. He becomes easy to control because all someone has to do is threaten the mask, and he'll do anything to protect it. To live freely, you must sever the mental link between identity and performance. You must reclaim your self-definition from culture, from career, from relationships. Not because those things are meaningless, but because their meaning should never outweigh your core. You can be a leader, a father, a partner, and still remain intact when one of those chapters ends. That's a strength. That's emotional independence. That's Stoic self-ownership. Try this. When you introduce yourself, resist the urge to lead with what you do. Speak from who you are, not your position, not your title, your principles, your clarity, your direction. It may feel strange at first, because most people are trained to sell the resume. But that pause, that small rejection of social programming, is where your liberation begins. And in private, go further. Write down the labels you cling to. Then ask, if this role disappeared tomorrow, would I still respect the man in the mirror? If the answer is no, you've outsourced your identity. It's time to reclaim it. Not by quitting your roles, but by reminding yourself they're tools, not your soul. The world can admire your image. That's fine. But make sure you're not admiring it more than your own reality. Because one day, the spotlight will shift. The job will end. The nameplate will fade. And if you've lived wisely, it won't matter. Because you weren't any of those things. You were something stronger. You were the man behind it all. Clear, calm, and free. 7. Walking away is not escape, it's reclaiming command. A man leaves quietly, no door slamming, no final argument, no lingering glance back. Not because he's numb, but because he's done. That's not weakness, that's precision. And in a world where walking away is seen as retreat, Stoicism flips the script. To walk away calmly is the most strategic move a free man can make. We're trained to believe that staying equals strength, that holding on, no matter the cost, is noble. That leaving means failure, surrender, or giving up. But that belief system creates prisoners. Men stay in places where they're disrespected, undervalued, or drained. Not because they want to, but because they're afraid of what walking away might mean. Afraid of judgment, afraid of silence, afraid of confronting who they are without that attachment. The Stoic doesn't walk away out of rage, he walks away out of alignment. He sees that no amount of presence can justify losing his peace. He refuses to negotiate with what threatens his clarity. He doesn't run. He doesn't escape. He steps back with full awareness, because he's not trying to fix the external. He's preserving the internal. And that shift in intention changes everything. Imagine a general who pulls his army back, not in panic, but in preparation. He sees that the terrain has changed. The enemy has shifted. He no longer fights a battle worth bleeding for, so he withdraws, not to surrender the war, but to choose a better one. That's how the Stoic treats every situation. He calculates, then disengages without apology. Walking away doesn't mean you lost. It means you recognize the cost of staying was your soul. It means you stopped feeding what was feeding on you. It means you chose silence over chaos, peace over validation, control over comfort. And that's not an escape. That's a command. That's what it looks like to act from strength rather than reaction. Every man has moments where staying would be easier, where tolerating one more insult, delaying one more boundary, or staying one more day feels safer than the unknown. But the unknown isn't your enemy. Emotional dependence is. And the longer you delay your departure, the deeper your self-worth erodes. You don't grow by clinging. You grow by walking. Even if your legs shake, as long as your mind stays firm. Try this. The next time you're in a situation that drains your clarity, instead of reacting, step back. Don't explain. Don't defend. Just remove your energy. Watch how quickly the dynamic shifts when you no longer participate. Walking away doesn't need fanfare. It only needs resolved. The world expects drama. Give it distance instead. Reclaiming command begins with one mental decision. I no longer owe myself to what doesn't serve me. That shift isn't selfish, it's self-honoring. You don't walk away to punish. You walk away to preserve. You don't walk away to control others. You walk away to protect your boundaries. That's how discipline expresses itself through silence. And over time, that silence grows louder than any speech. It tells the world, this man doesn't stay where he's disrespected. This man doesn't plead for peace. He becomes it. You don't need approval to leave. You don't need chaos to justify it. You just need clarity and the courage to act on it. Because the strongest move you'll ever make is the one that looks the quietest from the outside, but restores everything on the inside. That's not escape. That's what freedom looks like in motion. 8. Real freedom begins when you no longer fear losing. Freedom doesn't begin when you gain something. It begins when you stop trembling at the thought of losing it. Most men don't live, they bargain. They trade their energy, peace, and time just to hold on to things they silently fear might slip away. They don't walk with power, they walk with tension. And that tension comes not from pressure, but from attachment. Deep, hidden, quiet to people, status, comfort, or identity. The Stoics knew that fear is never about the thing itself. It's about the meaning we assign to it. Epictetus said, "The free person is the one who fears losing nothing that isn't truly theirs." Not their job, not their reputation, not even their relationships. Because if something external defines your peace, you've already outsourced your soul. You don't own your life, you lease it from your attachments. This fear of loss shows up in the smallest choices. The man who doesn't speak his truth because he fears rejection. The man who stays quiet in meetings, not because he lacks ideas, but because he fears disapproval. The man who tolerates disrespect in private just to preserve his public image. These are not mistakes of logic, they're consequences of fear. And fear, left unchallenged, becomes your invisible master. A Stoic doesn't numb himself to loss, he trains for it. He prepares his mind not by avoiding grief, but by refusing to be owned by what may leave. He practices premeditatio malorum, imagining the loss of things he values most, not to suffer early, but to reclaim power before it's threatened. If you've already accepted the possibility of losing something, you can live without the fear of losing it. And if you can live without that fear, you become dangerous in the best way, not reckless, but unshakable. Imagine standing in front of a vault. Inside are everything you think you can't live without. You've locked them in for safety, but every day you check the door. You've become a guard, not a man. You protect the vault so obsessively, you forget to live outside it. Now picture this. One day, you walk away from the vault. Not because it's empty, but because you're no longer willing to be defined by what's inside. That's freedom, not abandonment, authority. Try this. Pick one thing you quietly fear losing, then speak aloud how you would survive without it. Say, even if this goes, I will remain. Don't just say it once, repeat it until the grip loosens, until your calm is louder than your craving. That's when you begin to see clearly. That's when you start moving from survival into sovereignty. When you stop fearing the loss, you start choosing from clarity. You walk into rooms differently. You speak with less volume, but more weight. You stop needing applause. You stop explaining decisions. You stop overcompensating for insecurities you no longer carry. That kind of man can't be threatened, manipulated, or controlled, because he has nothing to protect but his peace, and nothing to lose but illusions. Let go of what owns your mind through fear. Test it. Speak against it. Walk beside it with steady breath. And if it leaves, let it. If it stays, let it too. Either way, you remain. Not untouched, but unshaken. And in that space of calm detachment, you finally meet the man you were meant to be. What you can't walk away from calmly is the very thing that still controls you. This is not a theory. This is a mirror, and it rarely flatters. Every attachment you fear losing, every role you cling to, every reaction you can't hold back, they all reveal where your freedom ends. But freedom is not a gift, it's a discipline. And it begins the moment you decide to detach. Not from life, but from the illusions that weaken you. Stoicism doesn't ask you to feel less. It invites you to fear less, to train your mind so that it leads rather than follows your emotions. Through calmness, emotional detachment, and mental clarity, you reclaim power over your responses. Through silence, you protect your energy. Through daily practice, you build a mindset that cannot be shaken by noise, loss, or external judgment. If you followed this journey through attachment, composure, identity, and the courage to let go, then you've already taken the first step. But philosophy without practice is just decoration. So start small. Walk away from the conversation that drains you. Reframe the thought that makes you feel weak. Let go of the need to be understood by everyone. Do it with dignity. Do it with clarity. Do it silently. And as you do, you'll feel it, That shift from needing to choosing, from reacting to ruling, from holding on to finally being free. That's what emotional self-mastery looks like. Now it's your turn. What have you recently walked away from or still struggle to release? Share your story in the comments. You're not alone in this, but the decision, stay bound or to walk free, will always be yours. Train it, guard it, live it.